right, guys, what's up? We're back with Ree, and we are talking books.
Yes, sir.
Which book are we talking?
We're talking about Mathew McConaughey's book, Green Lights, because that book I thought was amazing. The takeaways I got from that book was, when life's when you're living in the right flow of your own personal desires, I guess you could say, and what makes you happy, the lights just turn green and you got like flow, that happens in your life. And
it's like a self-awareness thing, right?
It is a
like,
self-awareness thing.
Hey, I'm hitting this roadblock. Maybe this isn't the right way. Hey,
Yes.
This opened up. This flowed. Maybe this is a better option.
Yes, and that doesn't mean that like when you get a challenge, it isn't a green light. It's just sometimes the challenges are a part of your growth, right? It's a part of like you to learn. But I really enjoyed that book for many reasons. That was one of them. And I liked all the journaling he did. I realized, like, man, I need to journal more.
Yeah, he literally journaled since like a teenager, right? Like
yeah, and just based on the book, he's just writing like thoughts, like like almost I want to say like a diary, but he'd kind of have his own thoughts, and then sometimes he'd go into like thinking, like a poem, sort of, because that's just how our minds work sometimes. And there's nothing wrong with that. And
yeah, it's pretty crazy. And one thing I liked about him, he's like, I like to tell you that I hustled for years and I sucked a lot of dick.
He was honest about it.
And this and that, and to get where I was at. But he goes, to be honest, I was just lucky. I just fell in the right place at the right time, and then that just continued to happen. Yeah. And I like that honesty.
Yeah.
Because that's very rare, especially a successful actor like he is.
Yeah, that's true. Very successful. I mean, you got to admit too that he was lucky, but there's also like his personality type was kind of what made that situation kind of happen. Like if he was a little more uptight or a little more bougie, it probably wouldn't have been.
He wasn't such a good looking guy either. I'm sure that worked.
Of course,
big time for him, right?
Yeah.
Like one of the first things he said, I won a modeling contest before I even got into acting. Like he won some big modeling contest.
Well, and the director that he met that helped him, get into acting in some of the bigger roles, like they were just at a nightclub and they were drinking, and he ended up drinking with them, and they smoked a joint on the way home, and like he networked with them, right? Like
absolutely.
Yeah, so like he hung out with them, and then next thing you know, he's sleeping on his couch in Beverly Hills or wherever it was,
Yeah, the networking's probably because he was such a seems such a relatable, easygoing guy. Yeah. Goes with the flow, and that seemed to have really helped him with his career.
Yeah.
Yeah. A big thing. So he was like this. Like what I liked about him, he was this romantic, kind of like a Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Channing Tatum.
Yeah, kind of like him. Like, he's a good-looking guy. All the girls loved him. Didn't really have a guy audience. He was playing these like love roles all the time.
Yeah, did all those rom-coms, right?
And he wanted to break away from it. And I love what he said. He goes, "I don't want to do this anymore. I'm too narrow niched. I want to break away from this." And I think it was like 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, it took him 2 years.
Without
he got nothing.
Any work.
Yeah.
And then someone come at him like, "Hey, we'll pay you $15 million. No, I'll pay you $20 million. No, I'll pay you $25 million." And they literally it threw back like 4 or 5 different offers.
Yeah.
And then he still said no because he's trying to stay true to himself so he could break away from that niche, so he could start doing, not even say bigger, better things, different things. So he could be more versatile, more well-rounded. Mm-hmm. And that's interesting, right? That must have been hard to do.
Yeah, that would have been pretty tough, especially when you're used to making like, 10 million.
Yeah, and then they're offering him like 2-3 times what he normally makes.
Yeah, and I'm sure
to do the same thing.
That was pretty appetizing.
After not getting work for a good 12 months or so.
Yeah.
And then the pressure of his wife, having a family.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ego side of it.
Yeah, that was a neat process and transition.
And I like that because it just showed like the strength of you can do it if you're consistent enough, and the permission that you don't need to be narrow. And that could be with business, that could be with anything you do. Just because you're doing this now doesn't mean you got to be stuck doing this.
Yep.
But it may take time, it may cost you money, it may cost you opportunities, but in the long term it may be the best thing you ever do.
Yep.
What else stands out?
What else stands out in the book? I really enjoyed like the moments he had where he had to go, or he felt he needed to just go on this like walkabout, I guess I can call it.
Yeah,
I know you'd understand walkabout.
Escape, right?
Yeah, he had this random dream, and he's like, he was like on a river, but he was not sure. He thought it was in one area, but the actual river was in a different part of the country. But he ended up going to this where he thought the river was initially. had just great, you know, kind of spiritual experience with himself.
Just to get away, right?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of those situations where sometimes you just got to follow your feeling a little bit on that, like, you know, and your thoughts and your gut, and don't be afraid to just, you know, go on these journeys.
Yeah,
no real purpose.
Self-reflection. Like,
Yeah,
what do I need at the time?
Yeah, he wasn't going there to party or to do this, or he was just kind of going there just to be by himself, and he was going there to, you know, when you're in your, and you can, I think everyone can relate to this, you know, we all have our like identities, you know, like maybe like for me, I got my kids, so I'm a father to them. I got to be a good father. So when I'm at school, like the parents look at me in a certain way. And then when I'm at, you know, when I'm doing other things like in real estate, like people look at me as like a real estate investor and they look at me different ways. So you got all these identities, right? And even with you, right, we have our identities together. And for him, think about the identity he kind of is stuck in as an actor, right? Like everyone just knows him as, you know, the rom-com guy or this or whatever. And like to just go somewhere where no one knows who you are, you don't have an identity anymore. You're just another dude who's coming to walk through the jungle or whatever, right? And that's kind of refreshing. And it's nice to have that perspective because then you realize like you are just a guy, you know?
Yeah, you're just a regular person.
In the cosmos. Yeah, you're just a dude. Like,
what was it was it Higher Learning, when he's like, Higher Learning came out and then 2 days later he goes, everybody's staring at me on the street. Everyone besides the blind man and the baby recognized me. He's like, holy shit, I'm famous.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. It's like, just over the weekend, he goes, "Oh my god, I'm famous."
Yeah, he just went to get like a sandwich or something, like normal.
It wasn't an arrogant thing. It was just this. Oh my god, like every single person knows who I am now from this one movie over this one weekend, and now I'm famous. Yeah. And now I'm stuck here.
Yeah, that's it.
Whether I like it or not.
That's right.
I thought that was crazy because I always wonder like how that transition goes, and he's just very honest and real about it.
Yeah.
He didn't try to butter it up or anything. It's just like.
He's like, that's it. I was famous. Like,
who am I? Like,
now what? Like,
now what? Right?
Now you kind of have to readjust who you are.
Yeah.
Your identity changes, right? Like it's become bigger for that specific, you know, job or what that specific identity's grown, and so like that's a big deal. You know, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Because you got to be careful not to fall into those pitfalls too, right? Because your identity isn't everything that you are, right? It's like a small portion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because you're always growing and evolving, and that's what I like about his book as well, is he goes through all these, you know, processes, but at the same time, like he's evolving. Like he's not just like, you know,
yeah, absolutely,
disappearing and becoming a drug addict or just,
it shows his growth, doesn't it?
Yeah, and he shows the messy stuff too. Like, you know, he had some messy moments. So
yeah,
and I think we all do. Like,
we're the problem is like. He's a public figure and it's hard to get away with. But just fessing up to it, moving on, accepting what it was.
Yeah, that was a funny moment when he lived in Austin and he got like he was super drunk and high and drinking all night, and he's like drumming on a drum naked in his house.
The cops punched out the door.
Yeah, and they arrest him. Like, that's a funny story. First of all. They made all those shirts, you know, like playing bongos naked or whatever.
I haven't seen the shirts.
Yeah, so,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, it was funny.
So yeah, I guess we won't tell you too much about it because I want you to read it.
Yeah, there's way too many other stories to kind of go over. Just the humanness of his relationship with his dad and the family and
upbringing.
And even that trip he went on when he just got out of high school to Australia, which was a pretty funny trip.
Yeah, don't let that judge Australians, please. Jeez.
I didn't. We're still friends.
Yeah. But so Green Lights, Mathew McConaughey, definitely. Ray told me to read it. I read it. We both love it. Highly recommend you read it.